Hey True Believers, Englentine here with another episode of Comic Book Origins. This time I'm taking a look at a character called Marsupilami. This comes from a longtime viewer named POPESIZE. He commissioned this video, and I thought he was punking me. Seriously, I looked up Marsupilami. He's a character from 1952. I've never heard of this. Who the hell is Marsupilami? And I thought this is going to throw me for a loop because nobody has heard of this character. I do not expect this to get a lot of views. So I start looking it up. Yeah, he's from 1952, first published January 31st. It's a Franco-Belgian comic, so French-Belgian, whatever, from a magazine called Spirou. And he was created by a guy named Andrew Franklin, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's doing this, man. What are you doing to me, POPESIZE? And then I started looking into it to find out that I'm the only one that doesn't know about this character, apparently. He had a Sega Genesis game, all sorts of merchandise. There was a cartoon. There's a cartoon about this animal in the 80s, in the 90s. So he's been around. I just did not have my finger on the pulse of pop culture at the time, I guess. So anyway, I thank POPESIZE for the opportunity to check out this character I've never heard of before, and for commissioning this video. And yes, that is something to do. If you like this video, please click like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Make sure the notifications are on. But if you would like to help out the channel, go on over to Ko-Fi, and you could... you yourself can commission a video. You just pick any category. You can see I've got quite a few here. And you pick any character, any item, any team, whatever, villain, superhero, or just regular protagonist, side character, main character, doesn't matter. You choose, and I will get to it. I will do this for you, and it's very exciting to learn the different kind of characters I have to do. Anyway, once again, thank you to POPESIZE, and let's jump into Marsupilami's first appearance, a graphic novel that I'm going to be doing something different with today called The Marsupilami Thief. As always, we start with the cover, and I gotta say, it's a very strange... Okay, obviously, you want to point out Marsupilami's main character, or at least the main draw of this particular Spirou adventure, and you got the storyline that's going on the bottom, as Spirou and his friend are chasing the thief. And you got the circus in the back. That plays a big part of the story. But the Marsupilami itself doesn't even seem to be a part of it at this point. But that's my take on the cover. So anyway, we're going to move on to the actual story. In the jungles of Palambia, Spirou and Fantasio captured a hitherto unknown animal, the Marsupilami, which now resides in the zoo. And we see the gentleman walking, and they're actually feeling a little bit guilty about the fact that they captured the Marsupilami, to the point where they're talking about maybe breaking him out of the zoo because they don't believe an animal such as the Marsupilami should be captured. So they decide to visit the zoo, and Fantasio is saying, "There's the director. Mr. Spirou, Mr. Fantasio, how fitting to see you here. We just moved the Marsupilami into his new cage. Is it a strong one? Unbreakable. Have no fear. Come this way. How's he doing?" And we see that Marsupilami is looking a little less than happy. As the boys approach the cage, the Marsupilami comes to life. Hooba, hooba, ha, ha, ha. And walking away, Fantasio notices this. He's like, "Hey, did you see he was sad? And then he only got excited when we walked up. It's like visiting your son in jail." So they decide they're going to break him out. And then we see that the Marsupilami is enjoying people throwing peanuts at him. And then we cut to one of the zookeepers going up to the crowd who are throwing peanuts and saying, "Look, rules are rules. You can't throw peanuts at him, even if it was good for him. Rules are rules," which angers the Marsupilami. So the Marsupilami grabs the zookeeper with his tail and knocks him over the head. You can tell he's all mad. But later, Spirou and Fantasio get a phone call. It turns out that soon after they left the Marsupilami, it had died. So they decide to investigate what caused it. They borrow the neighbor's car and they go back to the zoo. And at the zoo, Fantasio and Spirou are asking all of the main players the questions. The manager of the zoo says, well, his diet was controlled. The zookeeper mentions how Marsupilami was angry because he stopped people from feeding him the peanuts. So they decide to go over to the vet, who says, no, he couldn't have died from anger. His heart was strong. So they decide to perform an autopsy, and when they go into the vet's office, the Marsupilami is gone, which makes them ask the vet, well, do you think you were completely thorough in your examination? Maybe he was just unconscious and not dead? And the vet's going, no, that animal was dead. So they turn to the manager and say, well, obviously somebody stole him. They maybe put him in a bag they carried in with them. The manager says, nope, people have to put all their bags in the cloakroom. So if they did steal them, they're still walking around this zoo with that package. So they rush out to try to find out if anybody is actually carrying a Marsupilami-sized bag and or package. So Spiro and Fantasio find the lowest part of the wall and say, hey, we're going to hang out right here because, look, the guy's not going to carry around this burden all out through the zoo, so he must have stashed it, maybe throw it over the wall or try to climb over the wall. And the manager of the zoo says, okay, I'll tell you what, we're going to wait until all of the people leave the zoo, and then we'll make a special search, at which point one of the zookeepers decides he'll check the gardener's shed. So the zookeeper decides to check the gardener's shed, but he misses the legs in the rafter. Look at the second panel at the top. And then, of course, they decide, well, look, we checked everywhere and we can't find anybody. Maybe they must have gotten away. And we see the thief running with a ladder saying that he's going to go through the big cat exhibit in order to get to a wall that nobody's watching. And that's when Spiro and Fantasio are talking, and Spiro says, hey, look, you know, we've been thinking about this wrong. All he has to do is throw the package to an accomplice, and he's gone. We've been wasting time here. At that time, the thief wakes up all the lions, not knowing that they're light sleepers, and he tries to make it to the wall, but Spiro and Fantasio see him, and they start chasing him. And they run into the zookeeper, who blinds them with his, as they call it, a torch. And they decide to look out for the thief. But unfortunately, the zookeeper does it again and blinds Spiro with his torch, angering him. Angrily, we see Spiro throw the zookeeper's torch, which lands right in a position to shine onto the thief. Rats, that light, there's someone behind me. The only chance I have is to bolt the other way. And he runs right into the zookeepers. He's here! He's coming straight for me! Help me! Hey! Hold tight, I'm coming. Hey, who the devil is that bloke? He says as the thief runs by him. So Spiro gives chase to the thief, noting that he must be an athlete to be able to run as fast as he can while carrying what he is. Spiro notices that he darts into the herpetarium, calling for Fantasio. The thief hears this, but accidentally breaks one of the snake's cages as he's trying to make his escape. And then things get weird. So there's a Nile monitor, and he's like, hey, I'm free. And he jumps out of his cage. Now to the Nile. And the zookeeper, who's just scared to go in anyway, finds him. We get Spiro and Fantasio chasing the thief. But then they hear, over here, I've got him. So everybody comes running because they're hearing, come here, help, help. And they get to the zookeeper, and he's got the Nile monitor cornered. And they're calling him, oh, you're the dumbest animal in here. Which I think, wait a second, hold on. That man's doing his job, all right? He's the one that's working here, taking care of the animals. Now, they do chase the thief outside, noticing that he is getting tired and trying to zigzag to lose everybody. And, of course, the thief starts running away. Spiro and Fantasio gives chase, but the zookeeper once again bumps into Spiro, knocking him down, angering Spiro, giving the chance for the thief to get away. But before he does, one noble squirrel tries to stop him but gets tossed aside. Spiro runs up, making a last-ditch effort, jumping on the ladder, grabbing the guy by the pocket. So the thief decides to kick the ladder back, which works, tearing the pocket, and Spiro and the ladder fall, which should have broken Spiro's leg, by the way, but I don't think it does. We'll find out in the future here. But Fantasio does catch the piece of the pocket that fell. Fantasio tries to pole vault over the wall, of course, again, not being able to do it. He ends up getting the pole stuck in his pants. Don't explain how. As a matter of fact, he says, don't ask. And then they discover that they did manage to get two clues, a piece of paper from the package that carried the Marsupilami and the actual address of the thief. So, and then it gets weird again because Spiro and Fantasio go to what they think is the thieves' address, where they basically say, hey, you got to let us look for this guy or we'll call the police because we have a receipt. There's no real evidence, and they didn't exactly call the cops when they're at the zoo, so this woman has all the rights to say, get the hell out of my house, yet doesn't. But they do notice that the thief isn't there. So they promise that they're not going to tell the police if the wife says where the husband went to or where he's hiding, because they're completely on the up and up. I'm now getting very suspicious of the Spiro and Fantasio duo here. I don't know exactly what kind of authority they carry, but it seems like absolutely none. So anyway, she tells them about a flight that's taking off at 7:45 and it's 7:15, so they could barely make it, but only if they find their squirrel before they leave. And then, of course, we find out that Spiro and Fantasio are, in fact, criminals because they're doing 80 miles an hour through a 25-mile-an-hour village. The police have every right to pull them over. This book is done right here as they're taken to jail, or at least given a really, really heavy fine. And finally, we get somebody with a voice of reason as the cops catch Spiro and Fantasio. The officer comes out and says, "We wanted to inform you that you made a slight mistake. You know that village back there? The speed limit's 25. You must have read it as 125. Listen, sir, we're after a thief. He's taking the plane to... Are you the police? No? Because it's the police who go after thieves, you know. And after people who think they're cannonballs driving license. Damn straight, Ossifer. Give them a taste of that old Republican justice." Well, the guys realize that they're not going to make the airplane anyway, especially after their car runs out of gas, so they decide to actually get out of the car and hoof it for some reason, even though, once again, you know you're not going to make it. And the two evil geniuses realize that they can't go to the cops because they made a promise to the wife that they wouldn't tell them. So they decide to return their car to the neighbors, and the neighbor had ended up breaking his leg, saying, "Nah, if it'll help you catch somebody, keep it." And then it gets weird as Spiro and Fantasio run into a couple of customs agents that just want to check more and more of their things. Every time they think they're done, it's one more thing, and they end up getting into an argument and a fight that ends up just a big old brouhaha in the customs agency. Now, that, of course, ends to the punchline of the fact that they all thought it was a lot of fun, and they end up sharing a drink together. I love the fact that the customs agency is called the Merry Smuggler. So anyway, they drive to Magnama, where the thief went with the Marsupilami, and Spiro says, "It's terrible since this whole affair began. We haven't had a shred of luck, or food, or sleep, but who's really watching these kind of things?" And they bump into a blonde lady where Spiro's like, "Strange, I have a feeling I know that young woman. Holy smokes, I know her!" Of course, he doesn't actually figure that telling Fantasio is a good idea. But eventually tell him he does. That is just the thief's wife, but with a different hairstyle, and they follow her to a soccer stadium. Yeah, it says football in the book, but I'm not buying that crap. I'm sorry, it's a European book. Okay, it's football, I say with quotation marks. And wondering why the wife is so intent on the game, they notice that the center for the Magnama football squad, or whatever they call it, is the thief of the Marsupilami. So they watch the game and notice, wow, he made a great goal, so all is forgiven. The book is over, right? No, we're just halfway through. But I wasn't way off base. The wife notices Spiro and Fantasio, gives their son a note to send to the father, and the father's like, "Oh my gosh, it must have been the police. They're chasing me. What am I going to do?" And Spiro and Fantasio pull him into a room and say, "Hey, you're not getting away from your admirers." Yeah, it's like the Marsupilami thing never existed. He's absolutely A-okay with them now because of the goal. Soccer fans are weird. But that admiration only lasts for a moment, and they are back on the case, yelling at him, "Where? Where is the Marsupilami?" At first he says, "Hey, I sold the pelt because I thought I could make some money since the animal is dead." But they said, "Aha! But this package had air holes in it, so obviously the Marsupilami's alive." And he says, "I'm sorry, I sold him." And then he takes him to the circus that he sold him to. But the soccer player is worried that he's going to lose his job on the team, but they're not going to tell anything because they want those sweet, sweet goals to be played. So they actually walk up to the circus saying, "Now we're going to catch the real Marsupilami thief." No, you just let him go. Okay, he's a sports ball player. You just let him go. What's the deal? I don't get it. "We just need to buy a couple of tickets to the menagerie and we'll see that dear animal again." A little later, he's not there. Rats, that would have been too easy. "Hey, I have an idea," says Spiro. So the two get a job taking care of the elephants so they can walk around and check all the cages for the Marsupilami. And they do give the elephant some water but forget to tie one down, and he just wanders away. I'm sure that's not going to come back to haunt them. The two boys think they find the Marsupilami, but it turns out to be a cheetah when all of a sudden they hear a loud noise. What is that horrible screeching? Blast, that's the foreman's voice. He's already after us. the new guys, where are the new guys? Who let this elephant out? And of course, the elephant, he's like, hey, this noise is hurting my ears, starts chasing the boss. And the boss says this, you two, first chance I get, you're out the door. They literally got the job today. It's not like you're going to be losing anything. You're fired. So Spiro and Fantasio tie the elephant to a big tent saying, hey, we're going to put you here temporarily. And the elephant's like, whoa, hold on, this ain't my home. And if you put me here, you're going to forget to feed me. So I'm going back. And he starts to walk away, bringing down the main tent. And that's when the, I guess the foreman of the circus says, Goliath, come here. And a big giant guy grabs the two boys from the nape of the neck and just tosses them out. And Fantasio says, he's not taking any chances. That big bully going after people half his size, too bad. I'd gladly have measured up to that foreman. Which I think is kind of funny, you know, because he's twice the foreman size. Yeah, you get it. It's not funny if you have to explain it. Moving on. And the boys lament their missed opportunity to find the Marsupilami when they see a sign that says, hey, great new attraction tonight. And they figure, well, why don't we just buy a ticket and we'll come back? And they do, and we are treated to a clown show. And after that's through, we actually finally get a chance to see the Marsupilami in action, where he comes riding a horse, twirling his tail like a rope, trying to catch another horse. And the guys are like, wow, he looks in fine form. I'm so glad. Actually, he looks like he's having fun. But the Marsupilami is getting nervous because he's hearing applause, so he does things that he thinks are defensive and ends up being more entertaining, more of what the people are seeing as a show, and he gets more and more panicked to the point where he reverts to the wild inhabitant of the jungle that he was when the ringmaster says, uh-oh, he's panicking. A little taste of the whip will snap him out of it. The ringmaster cracks his whip across the Marsupilami, causing him to get aggressive. Hubba! Fantasio and Spiro see this. Fantasio wants to go down and break the ringmaster's nose, and the ringmaster declares that he will break that Marsupilami with the crack of his whip, but before he can, the Marsupilami snaps his own tail, leaps forward, and covers the ringmaster's face with his own sombrero. The Marsupilami begins to beat the ringmaster Zabaglione across the face through his sombrero. As the Zabaglione tries to get away, he wraps his tail around his feet, dragging him back, jumping onto his head, hubba, hubba, hup, hup, while the crowd is cheering and laughing, thinking, I had no idea that Zabaglione was such a good clown. After the Marsupilami chases the ringleader out of the tent, Spiro and Fantasio say, hey, I've got a great idea. Let's go on out and we'll listen around and we'll try to find where they take that Marsupilami to. The two boys end up getting chased out of the circus by the foreman, and they're lamenting the fact that they couldn't get a hold of the Marsupilami again. And then they notice the Count of Champignac, who apparently appeared in a prior version of Spiro. Okay, so I know I haven't been using this little floating head for my comments. I just let it go on the page. But this one time I have to say, I am having the damnedest time saying all of these French names. It's really, or the Italian names or whatever. Yes, I'm more used to Asian and such like this. And Zabligani and Marsupilami, now Champignac. Oy vega vault. So the boys confront the Count of Champignac and say, hey, can we have some of that super strength formula you made during our last adventure? And the dude's like, oh, nope, don't have any, and it takes a long time to make. And things get weird, and you know they're trying to, the writer here is trying to cover things that'll be revealed later, because it's like, you wish to go into the circus? Well, ... I have some pills at home that ... So they get an idea to audition a show for the ringleader, and they go about and do it. They get the job, and they're named Cam and Leon. And they go about the city promoting it, so everybody wants to see it. We even see that the thief and his wife want to go to the show. And using that, they start to walk around the circus looking for the Marsupilami. And every time the ringleader sees them, he's like, hey, they look familiar. I know them someplace. And as they're walking around, Spiro and Fantasio finally come across the Marsupilami, who's excited to see him. Oh, hubba, hubba, ha, 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 ha. I guess that's his excited voice. And then we see the ringleader who's like, hey, they're going to be late. Where are they? So the director, the ringleader, whatever you want to call him, goes looking for him, and that Marsupilami is doing something weird to that scroll in the top right panel. And, of course, he comes along finding Spiro and Fantasio, and they're like, hey, relax, we're concentrating. And then, of course, it's time for the show. which consists mostly of Spiro changing Fantasio's color, even making him look like the Marsupilami. The ringleader slash director, he's very happy, finally, I got this great show. So he goes back to his tent to have a drink and celebrate when a magazine falls and he sees it. It's like, oh my gosh, I recognize them. Cam and Leon are the guys who caught the Marsupilami. Are we not supposed to know that Cam and Leon also sounds like Chameleon? Just saying. And the ringleader slash director figures it out that they're here to steal the Marsupilami. So he says to the ringleader and the giant that they're going to wait until after the show, and then they grab them. And that's what happens. The show ends, they rush over to the Marsupilami cage, and they're grabbed. But what they didn't know is the original thief is coming around to meet up with Spiro and Fantasio. And the ringleader tells him the plan. Hey, we're going to put you in a cage. We're going to ship you off to China, and you'll never bother me again, yada yada. And he orders the giant to carry him. But then Fantasio and Spiro show off the fact that they can fight and bring the giant down. That's when the original thief there, the soccer player, decides he's going to talk to the ringleader, Zabliagani or whatever his name was, and say, hey man, you really should just give the Marsupilami back. So the two fights continue. The original thief, the ringleader, and and then we got the giant and Spiro, and I can't remember the names anymore, Phantasmo, and he swings and punches open the window to the Marsupilami cage, and the Marsupilami escapes. And FYI, no, I'm not going to stop and restart because I get a name wrong. I've done that about 50,000 times during this recording. You're getting what you're getting. So the Marsupilami takes out the giant with a headbutt to the chin. Robert Shanks, that was Victor Shanks. The sports guy takes out the ringleader in a boxing match, and the squirrel says, wait a second, there's one more person left. So the squirrel takes out the foreman of the circus, shoved him in a cage, and says, bam, now we're safe. I'm taking this pretty deadlock key with me as a souvenir too. Hubba! Don't lose the count of Champignac's pills, Spip. No dawdling, and thus the Marsupilami stolen one last time. The next morning, Spiro and Fantasio bid their friends farewell and leave Magnica. God damn it, these names have just been messing me up this whole freaking time. Letting this story end on a charming domestic scene. Hubba hubba hub! There you go, gang. That's the first appearance of Marsupilami. I've never even heard of this character before today, and wow, that was something. The recording was very difficult. The names really did throw me off, and I recorded and re-recorded more than once trying to stumble over everything. So what you got was the best of what was put down. That's so sad and pathetic. Also, this is longer than your usual first appearance. This is a graphic novel. It wasn't a comic book as they normally are, so it is a bit longer. Anyway, what did you think? Let me know of what in the comments below. I can't talk right now. Also, don't forget to click like and share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and make sure your notifications are on because that's all YouTube cares about. And if you don't mind helping out the channel, please help out because YouTube doesn't anymore. They don't even share the videos. So please share the videos. And go on over to Patreon or to Ko-Fi, drop $1 in the till and help us keep our lights on. Help us keep making videos for you. And if you don't mind me working for my money, you could do what POPESIZE did. I've got two viewers, Pope Fire and POPESIZE. POPESIZE, he was the one who commissioned this video. So if you want to do like him, go right on over to Ko-Fi and commission a video. Or if you're a Patreon who is a $5 or more Patreon, you get one suggested video for every $5 every month. And over at Ko-Fi, you can commission a video. And it's pretty awesome because you could do any category. And we've got quite a few. You get any story, any top 10, any character, protagonist or antagonist, any item, anything you want a story done on, by all means, you can commission it, and I will do it, no matter how hard it is. Anyway, I'd like to thank everybody who's already done that, and to everyone, all of the true believers, thank you very, very much for watching.